Hi, this is Dr. Betsy Greenleaf, and we're back with another episode of Body, Mind, Spirit. I'm really excited to be talking with Nikole Mitchell today. Her story is just absolutely amazing. So I'm just going to get right to it. We're going to be talking to a woman who's a pastor turned stripper. Now, I know everybody's going to be like, what? So let's get down to it. Thank you, Nikole, for being with us today.
Dr. Betsy, thank you so much for having me. I'm so excited about all we're going to talk about today.
Yeah, you know what? So we just bring this up. We were talking before about the disease of pleasing. And then we're talking about also on this podcast, body, mind, spirit, that if they're all not in balance, we end up getting sick. So what happened with your story?
Yes, I love that you're talking about this. There is such a need to talk about our wellness from a wholeness perspective about all parts of ourselves. And it's fascinating how if our inner world isn't right, how it can manifest in physical illnesses or breakdowns or symptoms. So for me, I spent most of my life trying to be that good girl. I was trying to be who everyone needed me to be. So I was the poster child for people pleasing, or as Oprah calls it, the disease to please. I was so terrified of letting anyone down or disappointing anyone that I kept my true self kept getting smaller and smaller and smaller until one month I landed in the ER twice because my body was physically shutting down from what I later learned was me not living my truth. I had become so addicted to being who everyone else needed me to be that like my body couldn't exist anymore because it was not living who I came here to be. And those ER visits where they ran all the tests and couldn't come up with anything and just gave me a bunch of drugs and said, good luck. Right. And once I started going deep and realizing like, then I found freedom. And then in my freedom, I found healing. And then in my healing, I found health. And in my health, I found wellness, and like everything in my life got so much better. But it required me to go on this really terrifying journey of being a pastor and becoming a stripper instead.
Now that's going to be specifically like very difficult because, I mean, I always talk about in American culture as it is, we're so quick to throw up violence on TV, but God forbid there are any images of sex or positive body images or even nudity. We're all like, oh my God, that's so terrible. So, and now you take highly involved in the Christian world and then being like, okay, now I'm going to really expose myself. Like what was that journey like?
Oh my gosh. Yes. Like if you ever want to go like unpack America's problems with sexuality, get into adult work of any kind, become a stripper, become a nude model, become an OnlyFans creator. It will bring up all the gunk we believe deep down inside of us. And it's part of why I love what I do, because it causes people to pause and think things through again from what they're taught, because they were taught all these bad things about people who are in adult work, who do stripping, who make porn, who do all these things. And they meet someone like me and they're like, wait, this doesn't line up. Like Nicole's so great and nice and sweet and friendly, but doesn't match all the horrible things I was taught, and I love being that disruptor. I love being the interrupter. But before I got to this point, it was terrifying, Dr. Betsy. It was absolutely terrifying. I became everything my family never wanted me to be. I had to completely leave my church community. I had to leave my friends. And that was just my own journey. I felt in order for me to live my authentic truth, I just needed a fresh start. So I literally packed up and moved to another state to give myself that opportunity, because I couldn't imagine the years it would take to try to explain to my friends and community and family and wait for them to get on board. It would never happen. So I did the really scary, hard decision of moving to a new state where no one knew me and I could just be who I felt I was always meant to be. And people wouldn't question it, because like, that's just how we've always known Nikole. It's who she was when we met her. And that helped expedite the process. And now I'm super confident. I love what I do. The world knows what I do now. But it was a very, very scary journey to go on in the very beginning.
It actually reminded me of, I've worked a lot with Michael Burnoff, who does this neuro linguistic programming and training. And there's something that he showed me once, and it's like people live in their wants and their don't wants. And he makes it like a box. He's like, they live in their don't wants and their don't wants, and they go back and forth between them. He goes, but you're never going to get anywhere unless you deal with your identity and the people around you. He said, because even if you try to change your identity, the people around you are going to feed into that identity. So if they want you to be, sweet, people pleasing Nicole, then you're going to get stuck, and then you're never going to get to the wants and your don't wants.
Oh my gosh. This is everything. Like, this is my language, Dr. Betsy. Like, I believe 99% of our problems stem from an identity crisis. We actually aren't honoring our truest identity, right? We're all operating oftentimes a fraction of who we really are because we are so terrified of letting someone down or being too much or not being enough. So we box away what we think is unacceptable, and we only show the parts that we think are acceptable. And no wonder we feel fragmented. No wonder we have dis-ease. Like, we are not actually in alignment or fully living our truth or being the fullness of our identity. And so much of my success now, my happiness now, my wealth now is the result of honoring my identity, which was no longer being a good little church girl, but being the woman I was always meant to be in this format. And once I honored the calling on my life and on my identity and surrounded myself with the people who could support me in my becoming, everything in my life took off for the better. But it requires those very, very scary decisions. Am I willing to leave my people for the chance of becoming everything I was meant to be? Am I willing to put distance between me and my family and create my own chosen family instead? And I think for a lot of us, we're too afraid to do that. And this is why I'm a life coach, because I don't want you to get to the end of your life and have one of the top 10 regrets of the dying, which one of them is wishing they had always been who they actually wanted to be, because they spent their life being who everyone else needed them to be.
My biggest question is, how do you get rid of that people? I feel like I need to join People Pleasers Anonymous, because I can't imagine, I don't know how to get rid of that part of me. So what is your advice?
Great advice. I have a great tip. Okay. So one of my former mentors, because she knew I was addicted to saying yes and never would say no to anyone ever, even if it came at cost to myself, is obviously why I landed in the hospital, because I was willing to sacrifice my well-being to please someone else. So she gave me a homework assignment. For 40 days, I have to say no to anyone and everyone who asks me for help. And I was horrified. And she was like, you can lie. You can say your mentor is making you do this exercise. You can say you ran out of gas and you can't drive your car to go pick someone up. You have to lock in the ability to say no. And she goes, and what you'll find at the end of the 40 days is all your true friends will still be there. They're not just there to use you, but people who are only there to use you or take advantage of you, they'll be gone. They'll move on to the next person that they can be codependent upon. So for 40 days, I did that. I said no to everyone, everything. It felt sick to my stomach. But sure enough, at the end of those 40 days, all the people that drove me crazy and I felt like always took advantage of me were no longer in my life. And it was like this cleansing. It was this releasing that I needed. And I got really confident. I'm like, damn, saying no actually feels really good. And so then I took it to the next level, which is, if it's not a hell yes, it's a hell no. Because there were so many mediocre, sure, I guess, fine. I kind of don't want to, but and I was like, why am I living my life for the sure, okay, kind of, when I could be living a life full of hell yeses? So if someone asked me something and if it did not light me up, it was a hell no for me. And I had some reactions, mainly from family members, like, what? We're family. You're supposed to say yes. I'm like, not this version of Nicole. I am done with that version of life.
That is it. I was thinking that family's got to be harder, because that's what I was in my brain. I'm like, I can think of a bunch of people that I could be like, all right, saying no would be easy, but family, that's going to be hard. So, yeah.
That's why sometimes I moved to another state.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
And what do you do? I mean, I'm sure you still run into people that are, I mean, because we see this all the time on social media. There's the haters that are out there. How do you deal with the negative comments surrounding what you're doing?
Yeah, that's a great question. And I think we all fear the trolls and the haters and skeptics. And I found in the beginning of my transition and like of my journey, I got a lot more haters because I thought a lot about them. I was in constant fear of them. So I constantly attracted them. It's like the haters can smell the scent of the vulnerable and the weak and they like pounce on them, right? So I was super scared, super vulnerable, and they kind of pounced and went after me online. And it was so hard. But once I kept doing the inner work of like, nope, I'm a grown ass woman. I'm allowed to do what I want. Sexuality is not bad. It can be really good. You can use it in such beautiful ways. You're the only one who knows what you're meant to do with your life. I got more confident and I started paying less attention to the haters and just focused on my confidence and who I came here to be and all the people who were loving it and supporting me. And the trolls and the haters got smaller and fewer and smaller and fewer. So what we give attention to, we attract more of. So the less attention I gave it, the less I attracted. So now I very rarely get a hater comment. And on the rare occasion I do, my community online is so amazing. They will pounce on that person so fast before I ever see it. So that's the other thing I want to tell people. Whenever you're making a pivot in your life or a big transition, you're releasing who you were to become who you are meant to be now. It's so scary in the beginning, but I promise you, you will get to the other side where it is so much easier and your community will have your back. No longer are you explaining and defending and justifying and apologizing. You're just being, and they love and adore you. Now, my biggest fear is actually not the trolls and haters. It's whenever I meet a new mom in my neighborhood or from my kid's school, and they're like, what's your social media handle, Nicole? Like, what's your Instagram handle? And I'm like, because this is the moment. This is the moment where my Instagram bio says pastor turned stripper. And it's all like very sexy photos. And you're either going to love it or you hate it. Most people do not have this medium response to it. And those moments still like sink in my stomach of like, I really like this woman. I really want to be friends with her. But the second she sees my Instagram account, she might be done with me. And that's happened. I'll have moms hop on. They're like, oh, great. Wow. And then like they politely end the conversation, never hear from them again. We never talk in. And it always makes me a little sad. I'm like, I'm so nice. Like, please don't like shut me out. But that's where they are and that's their journey. So I really have to focus on the women who do love it and just like let people go when they see it and they don't understand it.
And I still think it's such a shame that we're like that when it comes to bodies. I mean, like it's a body. We all have bodies. Like, why aren't we celebrating them more often?
Yes, I saw your Instagram post yesterday recently just saying like, sex is what got us here. And yet we are so terrified of talking about sex, showing sex, being exposed to sex in healthy, age-appropriate ways, of course, but we are so petrified that we'd rather shut it down and stuff it away. And that's how it comes out sideways. That's what causes like unwellness or dis-ease because we do not handle it in healthy and appropriate ways. And that's part of why I love what I do is I'm trying to change that narrative is that you get to be sexy and be taken seriously. You get to be risque and be respected. You get to be a mom and a model. You don't have to choose, but our society puts so much pressure, especially in women, that you can only be one-dimensional. You can only be one thing. And often that means requiring us to cut off our sexuality. When it's our sexuality that brought our babies into the world, that attracted partners into our lives. And yet when the woman owns it and expresses it, we slut shame her. Right. But our society makes money off of it with magazines and movies and ads are always using sexy women. That's okay. They can profit. The men can profit off of it all the time. But the moment a woman rises up and says, hey, I like my sexuality and I'm going to use it in ways that I want, and I might even make money off of it, she's a horrible mother and a horrible woman. And I just refused to be boxed and put away like that, which is why I stay in the spotlight, which is why I get so much press, which is why I'm very public about what I do, because too many women have been shamed in the corner and in the dark, and I stay in the light because shame is not allowed here. We're changing that.
You remind me of a couple of years ago, I had found an old picture of myself that I was like looking through my computer, didn't even remember I took it. It was this like really beautiful, sexy boudoir picture. And I was so excited to be like, wow, because I'm like looking at my computer. I was like, wow, that woman's really hot. And I'm like, holy shit, that's me. So I put it up on social media and I did this whole thing about body positivity and I put it out and I did. I got shamed. I got a woman who attacked me and was like, how dare you? You're a doctor. I would never send any of my family to you. And luckily, I got people that defended me. But I did a follow up post, but now I'm thinking maybe like not. I thought it was a good message, but even then, I think maybe the message got a little kind of skewed. But I found all these images of women that were like lawyers, doctors, firemen, like all these professionals that were in very sexy poses. And then I found pictures of porn stars, which now that's the part that I'm like, oh, maybe that wasn't really like they're still using their sexuality and making money, but they were all, I found pictures of porn stars that were dressed in like suits and looked very professional. And I basically put them on my social media. I was like, okay, tell me what these people do for a living. And, it was like that we were judging these women based on how they were dressed and judging about how they should be acting. So
we police women's bodies and decisions and words all the time. And I love that you posted that picture, because here's what I've also found. This is what I'm also trying to free women to do. Women just like you, professional, badass humans, like have so many sexy photos because damn it, we're sexy. We know it, right? And yet when we want to post that photo on social media, we always feel we have to justify it with some deep post about self-love and body acceptance, when really you just want to be like, look at my ass or look at my tits. Like I am popping in this photo. And that's where a lot of women come to me as clients where they're like, I want to get to the point like you, Nicole, where you just post, where I can just post a photo because it's sexy. And I don't have to have any reason other than I love it. You're welcome, world. And that's the freedom I've gotten to, like, I just post sexy photos all the time because that feels true to who I am. It's me expressing my essence and my sexuality, my sensuality in ways that feel so good to me. And people who are ready for it feel that. And that's where I want women to get. It's like, first of all, take sexy photos of you because you are a sexy bitch. And then second of all, like post them. Like I would much rather go to a doctor who posts boudoir photos of her than a doctor who doesn't. Like that's the generation we're in now. Like people who are living authentically matters. People who are willing to express themselves fully matters. And so me and my friends who are in the adult world, we're like, we will take a politician, a professional who does sexy work or takes sexy photos over someone who doesn't, because that person doesn't have shame. That person's done the inner work to get to the point to express those photos. Like people look at my Instagram and think like, Nicole's always been that confident to just post those photos. Are you kidding me? Scroll back. All the history's there. You'll see all my mommy photos. I was so like, you'll see my clothing. I was always covered head to toe. I was so afraid of being misunderstood or being judged or being too sexual or causing someone to stumble. And to be where I am now, where it's like very minimal clothing, sometimes fully tastefully nude because social media doesn't let you do explicit, right? Like it was a journey. And now that I do it, it feels so good. There's so much freedom there. And I get more clients, more business in my professional career as a result of it. And that's what I want other women to know. It doesn't have to cost you. It doesn't mean to lose money, lose clients, lose business. It actually has to be the very thing that attracts all those things to you.
I want to talk some more about your professional business when we come back from the commercial break.
Okay.
80% of women will develop a pelvic health condition at some point in their lives. There is relief. There is hope. The Pelvic Floor Store, your resource for personal health.
So we're back and we're talking with Nikole Mitchell. So Nicole, what I think is amazing too is your ability to be a life coach has been so I'm really excited because I work with Nicole through a media group, and the advice that you give as a life coach is absolutely amazing. You're really gifted when it comes to that. So what made you get into life coaching?
Thank you for that. And I love working with you. You're amazing. It's so funny. I've been a life coach for 4 years now. And with all the different entrepreneurs and creatives and artists and stars I've worked with, we don't realize that the thing that comes most naturally to us is typically the thing that makes us the most money, but we're so used to it. We do it for free all the time. So when I realized I was a life coach, 4 years ago, I actually realized, oh my gosh, I've done this forever. People have literally flown to my house from other countries, because I have friends all over the world, to stay at my house just to get my support in their life. They stay for 3 days or for a week. Like, as a life coach, that would be called VIP exclusive, that you'd make tens of thousands of dollars at. And here I'm just doing it for free. People flying in, I'm supporting them. We go have like coaching sessions or lunch or coffee, but it was just Nicole. I didn't know how to view that from a business framework. I didn't know the term life coach. So when I heard the term and it clicked with me one day, I was like, oh my gosh, I've always been doing this. I can make money doing this. So then I got excited because I was broke. I was on food stamps and I wanted to make more money. And I thought, maybe this is it. And once I started honoring my truth and the fullness of who I was and really stepped into my power, it's like everything inside me that I've been holding in to fit in and to please, like, exploded out of me. Like my power, my audacity, my intuition, everything that makes me a really powerful coach, because I'm not here to say something to make you feel good. I'm here to say what's actually going to change your life. And it's being willing to call someone out in a really loving way, or willing to get to the root cause and not just stay at the symptom level. And that's what changes my clients' lives. We're going so deep and doing powerful work. But I got into it because I want people's wildest dreams to come true. If you want to become a billionaire, let's make it happen. You want to become an A-list celebrity? We're going to make it happen. You want to have the business of your dreams? I know how to make that happen. Like, I want you to be really honest about what it is that you actually want during your very short, precious life, and make sure you have it. I want you to get to the end of your life with zero regrets over what you did not accomplish or become. And that fuels me because my own wildest dreams have come true, right? You know me, I went from food stamps to 6-figure months, like mind-blowing results. Things I never even knew to ask for have become my reality. And as terrifying as it was to take leaps of faith and try and fail and get back up again, it was so worth it to be where I am today. And I want that for everyone.
That's one of the things that when we bring up manifesting. And I think, have a lot of reservations about manifesting things in your lives. But a lot of the groups that I'm in, people are always talking about, like, that they've manifested things. First of all, I want to have you explain what people mean by when they talk about manifesting.
My definition of manifestation or manifesting is you bringing something into existence. So whether it's like a certain amount of money you want to make, it's a lover you're calling in, it's just a dream job, whatever it is, you have this idea of it in your mind, you can feel it in your body long before you ever see any evidence in your world, and then it enters your world. That's manifesting. And for us, it's not random. It's not coincidence. It's like you thought of it, you felt it, you believed it, you owned it until it showed up. And now it's here. And people are like, oh my God, I manifested that, right? Like, this is how powerful we are. And this like blew my mind because I didn't realize this until my mid 30s or late or early 30s, that I'm the creator of my reality. I always thought I was at the mercy of life. I was at the mercy of other people's decisions. And when I learned that I actually have the power to be the cause of my life, I saw everything so differently in my world. And I saw things, how I contributed to, how I created some of the situations in my life. And I was like, if I can create that big of a disaster, what could I create if I channeled it into really good things? And so it totally changed the way I showed up in life. And so that's why I teach my clients, you are at the level of cause in your life. You have the power. So what is it that you want to create and call in?
And what is it? Because you hear about this too, that if we're, kind of stuck, and then we're just this like attracting like, so that can work for when you're manifesting something good. But then also if you're stuck into this negative thinking about yourself and what you're doing, that you're going to potentially attract more negativity in your life.
Yeah, that's where it can be. There's a downside where people are so afraid of manifesting that they're afraid if I think about anything negative, I'm only going to attract negative. And so then all they are is like anxious and worried all the time. And like, that's not the point of manifesting. The point of manifesting is to help you realize your power in a positive way. And I believe that the frequency of love is greater than the frequency of fear and doubt. So even if we have a lot of fear, but if I have one thought of love, one thought of kindness, that supersedes the fear. So I'm allowed to be very human. I'm allowed to be sad. I'm allowed to be angry. I'm allowed to be hurt. And I'm also allowed to believe that my love and my power trumps all of that at the end of the day. So it's less about worrying about, am I attracting bad things all the time? It's more about like, what do you want to call in? So if there's grace and room for you to be a messy human with all your feelings and fears and still have what you want, what do you want? So we're able to put at rest our anxiety and fear. It's still going to be there. We're very human, but it just shifts it a little bit. It pivots your power towards focusing on what do I want to create and go about creating that while still being human.
You have like one tip that you would have for people to like, where can they start trying to get to the life that they desire?
Okay.
God, it's a trick question.
8 thoughts immediately. Okay. First thing first is I want you to get as honest as possible about what you actually want. We have been socialized to shrink our desires, to make our dreams palatable for other people to understand. Well, like, yeah, it may be fun to do commercials on TV, but deep inside you want to be an A-list celebrity. Yeah, I wouldn't mind, making a little bit more money when you want to be a freaking multimillionaire. Like we contract it, but we can never have what we want if we don't ever actually own what it is that we want. So you will never become a multimillionaire just thinking, I just like a little bit more money. So I want my clients to first and foremost, what is it that you actually want? If anything was possible, self-consciousness was a thing, everyone would cheer and applaud you. Not a single person would judge you. What is it that you actually want? Once you answer that question honestly, everything in your life changes, because now you can't take it back. You can't actually settle for just a little bit more money when like in your core, I am meant to be a multimillionaire. You're not going to settle for cute, dumb little ads when you're meant to be a star on the screen that everyone sees in the movie theater. So the first step is be brutally honest what you actually want, because that's the only way for you to go about it. It's the only way for you to create it, to attract it, to manifest it. Then secondly, hire support. Like I cannot say that enough. We are our own biggest sabotagers. We are so afraid. We have so many limiting beliefs. We have so much past evidence of how we failed or messed up in the past that we will stop ourselves every time, just as we're starting to get momentum, just as we're starting to experience success. And if you can have a support person in your corner who will not let you self-sabotage, you will get there so much faster, so much easier, so much sooner than if you're trying to go at it on your own. Those two things are like my top. Be brutally honest about what you really want, and then put some support in place so you don't shrink back from that truth.
And that's the thing too about if you hire support, they found there's been a number of studies that the more you pay for a gym membership, the healthier you are. Like we know how to work out, we know what to do, but if you're paying somebody, you are now like, not only do you have that potential added stress of like, oh, I got to come up with the money, but now you basically made yourself responsible to somebody else. I mean, I know anytime I've worked out, like I just, putting it to the gym, but I've gotten in much better shape when I have someone then standing there cheering me on, telling me what to do, than if I'm just like, all right, well, I'm just going to go and try to figure this thing out myself.
Yes. I'm so glad you shared that, because when I hired my very first life coach, this is, in 2017, we were on food stamps, like unbelievably broke with 3 little kids. And he charged $15,000. He might have has asked me for $1 million. Like 15,000 was unbelievably high and impossible. But I was so tired of being broke. I was so desperate for change. And I knew in my core, this was the right move to make, that I hired him. And every penny we owned to our name was $5,000. We emptied out our entire account and put a deposit for $5,000 down. And he's like, I'll give you 2 or 3 months to get the final 10,000. Right. And I remember being mad at him. Like, don't you have pity on me? Don't you see that I'm on food stamps? Don't you see I'm a mom of young children? Like, you are selfish to ask for this much money, like internal rage. I never said to him. Right. But then over the next couple of months, when I figured out how to make the extra $10,000, which is more than I'd ever like made in my life in that period of time, I realized how powerful I was. And I was like, oh my God, if I can come up with 15,000 in a couple months, I can do anything. And then it made me so grateful that he didn't charge, because I honestly just wanted him to charge $500. That would have been enough of a stretch for me. But if he had only raised or charged me $500 and I took that tiny step, I met him there, I would not have felt powerful. But because he held this high bar for me and it forced me to rise to the occasion, he knew exactly what he was doing. It was to help people tap into and remember, you are so freaking powerful. So yeah, because of that, I showed up in ways I never would have had he done it for cheap or had he done it for free.
And a lot of us are stuck in this like money poor mindset where we think there's only a certain amount of money in the world and other people have it and we don't have it. Well, that's not true. You can always make money. Like you can always create money. You're just going to figure out how to do it. But that, I think that because I've been in the same place, like I've made excuses not to do this coaching or courses and be like, oh, it's too much money. I'm just going to try to figure it out on my own. And I did that for years and it wasn't getting me anywhere. So
yes, I love that you said that, because I was raised in a very like lack mentality household. And the most important thing was never spending money, because my parents give all the time in the world. I'd rather build that than pay a chunk of money to have it done like that. Right. But I realized as I got older, it's the opposite. If there's one resource we cannot renew, it's time. Time is finite. That moment we had yesterday, it's gone. I will never get that time back. But a resource we can keep renewing is money. You can always make more money. This is why rich people spend money to save time. It was the exact opposite of what I was taught growing up. So when you realize that there's infinite amounts of money, you having more doesn't mean anyone has less, or them having more doesn't mean you have any less. There's room for all of us. There's enough for all of us. Like, get out of this comparison and judgment mindset and go about creating your own wealth. Then when you have that wealth, you have all the time in the world to do whatever you want. When you don't have money, you exhaust yourself in stress and anxiety and fear and lack and debt. And like, I don't want anyone to live there for a moment longer than they have to, because I've lived there for many, many years. I want people to realize we can always make more money, but time we'll never get back.
Oh my goodness, this has been amazing. Thank you so much, Nikole, for being with us today. Where can people find out more about you?
Dr. Betsy, this has been incredible. I'm so excited for people to hear this conversation, and hopefully it sparks them to keep talking about this forever and always. You can find me at NikoleMitchell.com. My name, Nikole, is spelled with a K, Nikole. I'm on all social media platforms, but I'm the most active on Instagram and Facebook. So come over, say hi. I love meeting with people. Let me know you heard this podcast conversation with us, because I would love to hear that. And Dr. Betsy, thank you so much for having me.
Thank you. And I just want to remind people, not only check out Nikole's social media, but find me on social media, and also go to WYTV7.org. Not only look at all the other program that we have on this amazing channel, but don't forget to donate, because each one of your dollars, even the smallest donation, helps with bringing great programming like this, and also helps to support all our charitable events and organizations that we're involved with. So once again, thank you so much, Nikole, for being with us today.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Awesome.